bank. Defendants are our parents. Prayer for relief by the plaintiff. Deutsche Bank requests that the court invalidates the foreclosure, declare that the foreclosure selling the property is null and void, and return the property back to my parents. Place your house in a trust. Understand promissory fraud. Comprehend what's happening with the note and the mortgage. That's when you get these results. I'll put the link in my bio for all three of these books. Promissory fraud. Definitions.uslegal.com. Promissory fraud is a promise made by the promisor when she/he had no intention to perform the promise when it was made. Breach of contract from Investopedia. There we go. Investopedia.com. A breach of contract is a violation of any of the agreed upon terms and conditions of a binding contract. The breach could be anything from a late payment to a more serious violation, such as failure to deliver a promised asset. A contract is binding and will hold weight if taken to court. pmlawfla.com. Miami breach of loan agreement and promissory note lawyer. A lender's primary duty under a loan agreement is to provide funds to the borrower according to the terms of the contract. If the lender fails to advance the required funds, they have breached the contract. Suppose you are closing on a house and the mortgage lender does not deliver the money as promised. That is considered a breach. So now, let's go to this promissory lawyer's website. Perez Mayoral, PA. Breach of loan agreements and promissory notes. So this is what I just read. Failure to fund, which is a breach of contract. Failure to fund can also occur under an agreement where the lender disperses funds over time, for example, a construction loan. As long as borrowers fulfill their obligation to receive the next round of funds, the lender is in breach if it fails to deliver. Lenders can be liable for breach of contract by failing to fulfill promises made to the borrowers during negotiations if the promises are not in the final loan contract. For example, a lender that offers a commercial loan with a 5-year term but switches it to 1 year in the agreement may be in breach. Courts have held that oral promises are enforceable despite contradicting the written contract. Breach of promissory note. A promissory note is a binding agreement evidencing a borrower's promise to pay the holder a fixed amount of money on a specific date upon demand. Businesses often use these agreements when they provide services, sell goods, lend money, extend credit. A valid promissory note has the same elements as any other valid contract, including 1. An offer, 2. An acceptance, and 3. Consideration. For example, if a lender advances $25,000 and the borrower signs a promissory note for $25,000, the loan is considered valid consideration. Breach of promissory note occurs when payment due or demanded is not received. The elements of breach include the existence of a valid and enforceable note, performance by the lender, the borrower breached the agreement, i.e., failure to pay, actual injury to the lender. So this lawyer explains that money has to be advanced. That's the consideration. And if you don't receive the money, then the lender is in breach. I'll read it again. Failure to fund. A lender's primary duty under a loan agreement, also known as a promissory note, is to provide funds to the borrower according to the terms of the contract. If the lender fails to advance the required funds, they have breached the contract. Suppose you are closing on a house and the mortgage lender does not deliver the money as promised. That is considered a breach. Failure to fund can also occur under an agreement where the lender disperses funds over time. For example, on a construction loan, as long as borrowers fulfill their obligation to receive the next rounds of funds, the lender is in breach if they fail to deliver. This document on the left, my computer will actually transition. There we go. This document on the left is the one that we went over in the previous video. As you remember, it was essentially a rough draft, very rudimentary. We'll close that. This document, however, let's make this full screen. This document, one second, gotta edit it on Streamlabs. That is not proportional to, there we go. This document is more refined. And like I think, I don't know if I mentioned it, but it is available on the website. Let me see, where is it? Streamlabs is very weird. That's not it. Is that it? There we go. It's under trust law. Let's go back. RiseOfTheMortals.org, books and literature. Books and literature. Go to trust law right here. Right here. I'm not sure if you can see that. Or it's right here. Right here. Anyway, trust law. It's right here. You guys didn't see any of that. Oh man, this Streamlabs thing is ridiculous. Come on, transition. There we go. Let's go back. Books and other literature. Again, I'm saying it again. It's under trust law, which is right here. Or you can just click on it under all items right here. Click on trust law. Boom. Mortgage fraud. So the rudimentary draft from the last video is also part of this, as well as what I'm about to go over right now. Motion for declaratory judgment. So, in a hypothetical situation, if I were, let's say, if I read, let's say I sign, let's say 5 years ago, let's say 5 years ago, I entered into a promissory note with a bank, and I put up my house as collateral for that promissory note. So I securitized the note with a mortgage. So it becomes a mortgage backed security. That's all that's saying. Uh, and I've been reading law, studying law, and I realized hey, when I signed this promissory note, I was under the impression that one, I was going to become a homeowner, and two, I was going to actually receive money. I thought that the bank was going to write me a check. I thought that the bank was going to give me cash, whether it was just one time lump sum payment of, let's say, the promissory note said $200,000. I thought that the bank was going to give me $200,000, and so that's 200K, and I gave them 10K. So they promised me $200,000. I put down 10,000 as a down payment. And the reason why I put down $10,000 as a down payment is because I thought I was going to get the 200,000. So, in this promissory note, the bank promised me $200,000, so I had reason to believe I was going to receive $2,000. And to ensure that I get that $200,000, I put down 10,000 of my own money, and then agreed to pay, let's say, $1,000 a month to repay the $200,000. So let's say I've been paying that for a month. Let's say I've been paying that every month for 5 years, right? So let's do the math really fast. I'm not the best at math, so we'll use a calculator. Math gave me anxiety in high school. So 1,000 times, oops, that's 100. 1,000 times, okay, it just did 1,000 times 1,000. 1,000 times 12 is $12,000 times 5 years is $60,000. So $60,000 for 5 years plus the $10,000 down payment is $70,000. So since the closing, since the closing, and I'm just writing notes. Since the closing, I've paid $70,000 on a loan that I never received. So I'm realizing, hey, I was deceived into signing this promissory note because I was told if I give them $10,000 and I put up my house as collateral, I will get $200,000. I was deceived into believing that. And I had reason to believe it because we negotiated this. There was a promissory note. There was a mortgage broker there. There was a lender there. The bank was there. I was under the impression that I was going to receive $200,000. So let's say I find out that I realized that I was defrauded out of $70,000, and the fraud appeared when I was told that I was deceived by being convinced by the bank that they were going to give me $200,000. They gave me nothing, and because of that, they defrauded me out of $70,000. So I believe I have uh, a claim of fraud against, let's say, the mortgage lender is uh, MLLC. Let's say mortgage lender LLC. That's the name of the mortgage company. All right. So let's say, and let's just give a what was 5 years ago today. Let's pull out the good old calculator. 2023 minus 5 is, let's say, 2018. So I entered the mortgage 2018. I signed with MLLC, Mortgage Lender LLC. Okay, let's see. So now I feel like I have grounds to sue them. So I'd probably go to the Superior Court of Rhode Island. I'd probably go to their website, and I would probably hypothetically ask them for a civil cover sheet. And then let me see if I can. Actually, let me see if I can do that. Let's see. Let's see. Rhode Island Superior Court. Let's see if I can find some pro se documents. Civil case process. Let's check that out. Criminal case up forms right here, so we don't even need that other tab. Forms, Supreme Court, Superior Court. Let's see. District Court. Let's see anything with arbitration, bail. Let me see. Notice of appeal. Maybe I have to do it in district court. Who knows? Actually, let me see. Oh no, it's definitely Superior Court. Subpoena. All right, let's go back to number one then. I definitely don't see it. My bad. I forgot to transition the thing on Streamlabs. So you didn't see anything that I just did. Let's go back. All right, I just Googled Rhode Island Superior Court. Clicked on this first link. It opened this up. Go back to the home page so you can see. Actually, it didn't take me there. I'll just do this. Go back to this. This is where it took me to. I clicked on forms, but this doesn't really seem very helpful at all. I'm looking for a civil cover sheet. That's what I'm looking for. So I can begin my claim against Mortgage Lender LLC in this hypothetical situation. Cover sheet. Maybe I missed it. Nope. Cover sheet for application. Let's just see what that looks like. No, that's not it. Maybe this is something I have to start in district court. Because I'm not seeing any, like, normally there's like pro se pro se section because I'm not seeing it at all. Traffic or workers' compensation. Maybe I'm just not reading enough. Who knows? I'm really just looking for anything that entry of appearance. Nope. Language assistance. Nope. Motion affidavit to expunge. Nope. Motion for permission to travel. That's interesting. Notice of appeal. Subpoenas. Let's try this. Rhode Island Superior Court civil cover sheet. This might be, yeah, this is, let me see what this is. This might be the wrong court, federal court, probably. Oh no, here we go. Yeah, so it's not even. No, it's not even popping up. This is why you pay people to do stuff for you. Yeah, maybe it's something that you have to get from the clerk, from the clerk yourself. That's what I was trying to say. So we'll skip that. What is this right here? I think this is what I need to put up. There we go. So I'd probably have to go to the actual courthouse myself and ask the clerk for whatever paperwork I would need to file a claim against Mortgage Lender LLC. And then they'll probably ask for, the nature and cause of all this stuff, like what exactly I'm suing for. They probably ask for like a statement of claim on the paperwork, and I know that's what they ask for the federal stuff, and I've seen other courts civil cover sheets, so stuff like that. So this is probably I would probably just file off rip as soon as I file my claim with them. I'd probably file this motion for declaratory judgment because I believe that they wouldn't have a reasonable defense. I would believe that the mortgage lender LLC, who would be the defendant in this matter. So let's just type up a brief little head. It would probably be Superior Court of Rhode Island. Jamal versus Mortgage Lender LLC. And this is all fake, right? Case number. It'll probably have something like, probably be like 2023 CV 56789. That's the case number. Right, and then this would be, I would want the judge to make a ruling on this, right? So I'd probably say something along the lines that the bank/lender knowingly and intentionally neglected or refused to deposit the sum agreed to be lent and had no intentions on ever loaning any amount of money into the alleged debtor's account. This refusal to actually lend any money to the alleged debtor ipso facto and ipso jure makes lender not a lender at all. Not being a lender, they are not a creditor and have no right to recoupment, remedy, or recourse, and has failed to make a claim upon which relief may be granted, as there's no proof of actual indebtedness. So this was actually taken from the financial literacy book. So I have to edit this because I'm the plaintiff in this situation. And has no right or no recourse. I'll just delete this. But what's on the website is as it is. So if you want to study it, just realize that. A promissory note, where one party is obligated to give a loan before the other party is required to pay the loan, is void the moment the initial party does not send the money. Therefore, the alleged lender is in breach of their duty to lend, and with no intent to lend has committed promissory fraud. A promissory note for the amount of, and this is where I would put the $200,000, and it will probably say USD on the note. Was closed on a date of signing, dated, and I said this is 2018, so we'll just put the same day, 2018. Today is October 24th. Between, insert your name, my name is Jamal, hereafter referred to as borrower, and mortgage lender LLC. Hereafter referred to as lender. The promissory note was then secured by way of a mortgage with the property located at, let's see, where's my house? 123 Friendship. Oops. Yeah, there we go. Friendship Street. Made Upsville. In a county of nowhere, because this is not real. It's not a real place. In the city of Fakesville, Rhode Island. Land and plot number, let's just say 99. In the promissory note, the borrower was led to believe by the promise in writing that the lender was going to advance to me the entirety of the principal amount as stated on the note, to the sum, not son, sum of $200,000 USD. And in return for the principal amount, the borrower were to make a monthly payments of what I say before, $1,000 USD at an annual percent rating of, I should say of, not or. This is why it's very important for you to read documents. Like I said, what's on the website is this before you see me making all these corrections. It's just as it is. Let's just say I had 0% interest because I'm a Muslim and we don't believe in usury. And usury is condemned in the Bible as well. Since the closing of the contract via signature to this date, the borrower has never received any advances on the principal amount, in sum or in part. No amount of the principal has ever been advanced to the borrower by the lender in whole or in part via cash, check, or direct deposit into the borrower's bank account. So let's just put this as well. What's today, 24? Just so it's clear as to when this took place. Because, this is being filed with the courts, so everything has to be well documented. So I signed this mortgage agreement 5 years ago, and I've been making payments for 5 years, and I never received the loan. Statement of claim. The lender entered into a promissory note on this date. So we'll just copy and paste. On this date, with the promise to lend $200,000 USD. The lender has failed to perform its contractual obligations and never intended to actually loan the borrower any money. As a result of deceit, the borrower, while reasonably believing the lender would make advances on the principal, made a down payment of $10,000. That's what I went over before. $10,000 on the loan. In reliance to the promise made by the lender, the borrower has also made monthly payments on the loan to the sum of $1,000 for how many? So let's do 12 divided by 5. Wait, 5. Hold on. 12? What is 5 divided by 12? Let's do this. 12 times 5. That's what I need to do. Oh, man. Told you I wasn't that good at math. For 60 months since the closing of the note and the mortgage dated, let's add that just so there's always clarification. The lender has never made any advances in sum or in part to the lender. The lender never made any advances in sum or to the borrower, and never intended to do so. In a preconceived, plotted, and calculated attempt to defraud the borrower through deceit and fraud out of a down payment of $10,000, monthly installments of $1,000, the selling of the mortgage-backed security on the secondary market for an additional sum of. This has to be determined later. I really don't know how much they sell mortgage-backed securities for. Let me just Google it real fast, see what pops up. MBS sale amount. FannieMae.com. I don't think it's ever gonna say. Man, I couldn't find anything online. A quick Google. We'll leave that blank for now. The lender has made an approximate total of add A, B, and C. So we'll not add C because we don't know. But we already totaled $70,000. And then we'll just put in brackets plus C. And now we're going to do some algebra. Solve for C. No, I'm playing. So this right here, you would have to ask the bank, if the bank sold it to it on the secondary market, you would have to get that from them in discovery or something like that. Or you could send a letter in advance. That's what the financial literacy booklet is for. Towards the end, there is a notice of intent to sue upon failure to validate the debt. And in that, you ask them how much they sold the mortgage for and or how much they purchased your mortgage for. Because sometimes people enter into a mortgage 9 days later, 90 days later, 2 years later, 5 years later, however much time has elapsed They'll get a notice in the mail saying that the the mortgage broker that you got your loan from sold your mortgage to another company. But anyway, the lender has made an approximate total of $70,000 and has loaned $0. The lender made a representation of intent to lend $200,000. This keeps showing up with $2 signs. So I have $2 signs somewhere in front of the 200,000. Or maybe that's just me copying and pasting it poorly. Yeah, that's me doing that because I just highlighted it again. The lender made a representation of intent to lend $200,000 to the borrower, and the lender did not really have the intent or that intent at the time that the promise was made to actually lend any money to the borrower. Therefore, the promise was false. For the reasons stated above, the borrower believes the lender has committed promissory fraud, has breached their fiduciary duty established by the promissory note, has defrauded the borrower out of a down payment and monthly payments on a loan they never intended to make any advances on. The lender also led the borrower to believe that by acquiring a mortgage, the borrower would be a homeowner. But many courts have ruled that a mortgage is not conveyance of title to property, and a deed is merely color of title to those who do not know law. Put simply, the money must first have been lent, as the payment of the debt is predicated on the promissory note, and the note relies on the parties fulfilling their obligations. The lender never sent any transaction, check, money order, deposit, or cash to the borrower, thereby creating no debt, but the individual is still listed as a borrower, although money has never been given. This is not only fraud, as the lender never intends to lend any money. The lender is in breach of their fiduciary duty as they promised to lend the money and never did. The fraud takes place by the lender promising to lend, and the now deceived alleged borrower is now sending real payments to the lender for a loan that was never received. No reasonable defense. The lender could have, but has not, at any moment after the closure of the note and mortgage, transferred portions of the principal amount to the borrower. This is proof that the lender had no intentions of lending any money. Relief sought. Borrower/plaintiff requests the courts to make a judgment stating 1. That the mortgage as first lien and encumbrance on the property be considered null and void. 2. That the lender return the down payment to the borrower. 3. That the lender return all monthly payments to the borrower. 4. That the borrower/plaintiff is the sole owner of the property and has a allodial title to the property. 5. That the lender has no valid claim to the property by way of mortgage. Memorandum of law. There is no statute of limitations for fraud. Promissory fraud is a subspecies of fraud and deceit. A promise to do something necessarily implies the intent to perform. Hence, where a promise is made without such intent, there is an implied misrepresentation of fact that may be actionable fraud. An action for promissory fraud may lie where a defendant fraudulently induces the plaintiff to enter into a written contract. In such cases, the plaintiff's claims does not depend upon whether the defendant's promise is ultimately enforceable as a contract. A warranty deed or deed of conveyance is color of title. A deed that purports to convey interest in the land is color of title. A deed which on its face purports to convey a title constitutes a claim and color of title. There is nothing here requiring a deed to establish a color of title under the former decisions of this court. Color of title may exist without a deed. A promise of future conduct is actionable as fraud only if made without a present intent to perform. A declaration of intention, although in the nature of a promise, made in good faith, without intention to deceive, and in the honest expectation that it will be fulfilled, even though it is not carried out, does not constitute a fraud. Moreover, something more than non-performance is required to prove the defendant's intent not to perform his promises or promise. If plaintiff adduces no further evidence of fraudulent intent than proof of non-performance of an oral promise, he will never reach a jury. So then we can say, show us other promissory notes and agreements with other people where you have sent them money. Show us transactions where you've actually sent people money for these alleged loans. And then you'll see that they never do, which means they never intended to give anyone any money. Mortgage cannot constitute color of title for purposes of acquiring title by adverse possession, as a mortgage does not purport to convey title to property. A mortgage is considered only a lien and therefore not a transfer of title. By more modern law and under the statutes of many states, a mortgage is a mere lien upon land. A mortgage is merely a lien and passes no title to the mortgage property. The mortgage, both on its face and under the law, only gives the mortgagee the right to enforce the lien by foreclosing on the property. A mortgage, therefore, does not purport to convey title to property and cannot constitute color of title. Normally, a promissory note is given to a lender, I always mess this up, contemporaneously with the borrower's receipt on the face amount of the note. When a promissory note is paid, the note is normally canceled. The burden then shifts to the borrower to rebut the presumption either by proving payment or by proving that the face amount of the note was never advanced. The agreement to repay reflected on the document headed promissory note is not an unconditional agreement to repay a sum certain or a certain sum. Instead, it is only a conditional agreement to repay whatever sum might periodically be advanced. The mere existence of this line of credit agreement does not support a presumption that full amount of the line was ever advanced. So just because the loan says $200,000, if the bank only lent $1 of that $200,000, then you would only be responsible for repaying that $1 because that was all that was given to you. That's what this is saying. Because it's a conditional agreement. On the condition that you give me the money, I will pay you. It's not unconditional, whereas even if you don't give me the money, I have to pay you. That's ridiculous. The promissory note document itself is not a business record, as that term is used in the law of hearsay, but rather is an operative contractual document admissible merely upon adequate evidence of authenticity. So prove to me that you transferred me money. The promissory note in isolation did not show what amounts were advanced pursuant to the line of credit, what amounts were repaid, when, what interest had occurred, etc. So it doesn't express how much was actually sent out of the total. It doesn't show what amount was repaid, nor when it was repaid, nor when the advances were made. And it doesn't even show what interest was paid on the amount that was actually lent. A fiduciary relationship exists when there is a reposing of faith, confidence, and trust, and the placing of reliance upon by one upon the judgment and advice of the other, meaning a contract. A fiduciary who commits a breach of his duty as a fiduciary is guilty of tortious conduct to the person for whom he should act. And of course, there's additional case law in the financial literacy book and the foreclosure book. That's where some of these cases came from. But in this hypothetical situation, this is something along the lines of what I would say. That a promissory note was signed, and I was led to believe that I would receive $200,000. And then I was defrauded out of $70,000 and haven't received a penny from the bank. So the bank made $70,000 off of me alone, right? So me as an individual, they made $70,000 off of me over the course of 5 years. Then they sold the mortgage to someone else. So they made more than $70,000, yet they lent $0. That's clearly I've been defrauded out of $70,000. I still haven't received 200,000. So now in this situation, I'm already living in the house. They never gave me the $200,000. So at the end of this, if they actually give me the $200,000, guess what I do? I give it right back to them. And then what? Now it's paid. And then what? Now I no longer have a mortgage on my house. You can find this at riseofthemoors.org.